Edwin, Hilda, Elsa, Chris. That wasn't one.
No, Charles. You should have gone for
Close.
Chuck. I mean, Chuck, I would have let you go.
Close.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can't name more. Please continue.
All right. So in 1870...
Just wait till I have my second beer.
Oh, boy.
It's not like I'm drinking on an empty stomach.
In 1876, the family moved into the house at 3322 South 13th Street. Mm-hmm. It is now the DeMenil place.
DeMenil. That's what I want to say.
I always found it so random that Missouri has French influences.
Well, fur traders?
Yeah, that's
probably.
True.
Brewery Building 1.0 was built around the same time as the Lemp Mansion and in another popular Victorian style known as Italianate. So Victorian architecture includes, but is not limited to, Second Empire, Queen Anne, Carpenter Gothic, Gothic Revival, Romanesque, Italianate, and my personal favorite, Eastlake. I would say that in general, Victorian architecture, once maligned and torn down in the 1950s through the 70s, mainly because of urban renewal, is now quite beloved. It's a fun, colorful, and easily identifiable style that turned out some incredible craftsmanship. The Italianate style was one of the earlier subsets under the umbrella term Victorian. It appeared around 1840 and fell out of favor in the 1880s. Most Victorian-style buildings are asymmetrical, and Italianate structures are no exception. Frequently, pattern books were consulted for the design of houses of the style. Notable features of Italianate houses include eaves with wide bracketed overhangs, tall, narrow, and often arched windows, one-story porches or porticos, and cast-iron detailing. Many have a feature called a belvedere, which is a low but visible and often tall enough to accommodate a person, square construction on the roof, providing ventilation and natural light into the center of the house. The function is the same as a cupola, but a cupola is round. So you can add belvedere to your architectural vocabulary and know that it is different from a cupola and why. The design of the building expresses most, but not all, of the Italianate characteristics. It has wide bracketed eaves and an asymmetrical floor plan, but it has a symmetrical facade. It has arched windows, and it had a one-story porch, which has been removed and replaced with an awning. The home is constructed of brick, and the primary facade has been painted. On one side of the house is a rounded bay, the full height of the structure, and on the opposite side is a chamfered bay of the same height. Although called the Lemp Mansion, the home was not built for William Lemp and his wife, but instead was built in 1868 by St. Louis. I don't really know how to say this. St. Louisian? That was the same thing. Okay, Jacob Fikert was from St. Louis. He sold the house to Lemp in 1876.
And it should be noted that he actually was his father-in-law.
In the first decade of the 20th century, the home was extensively renovated to create additional office space for the successful Lemp Brewing Company, but still acted as primary residence for the Lemp family because given its size, there's plenty of room for business and pleasure. Currently, the mansion is run as an inn, an event venue, while also offering special events which unsurprisingly include haunted tours. When an interstate route in the 1960s was planned to go straight through the property, requiring the demolition of it and a neighboring Greek Revival mansion, the Landmarks Association bought the property from the State Highway Commission, now known as the excellent acronym MoDOT.
MoDOT.
It's my favorite one so far.
Yeah, I do like that.
And I don't know if State Highway Commission became Missouri Department of Transportation, but I just wanted to be able to say MoDOT.
Yeah, that's understandable. So the Lemp family moved into the house and things were going quite swimmingly for the Lemps.
They were swimming in beer.
They were swimming in beer and a lot of money.
So they only made lagers, and if you don't know, that's okay. I just wasn't sure.
I'm assuming that they branched out because they had a couple of beers.
Okay. Like they were probably staying on the light side. So maybe they had a Pilsner but not probably a stout and not.
So over the next 55 years, the Lemp family built their brewery into an industry giant. Mm-hmm. And it actually became the largest in St. Louis, larger than even Anheuser-Busch. Their principal brands were Falstaff, Lemp Standard Lager, and Kulmbacher.
Oh, well, they were German, so they would have maybe made a Bock. I love a Bock.
Okay, well, fancy.
Depends. I like a Doppelbock. I like the darker, richer, malty ones.
I should give credit where credit is due. I just read that straight off of the Lemp Brewery Complex website, which is now artist studios, industrial space, storage,
events,
office space. Yeah,
they rent it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually looking. They have a really
so pretty.
Yeah, a really cool 800 square foot artist studio for $450 a month that I think we need to rent for our studio.
Yeah.
Because
can you live there, or is that just your office?
I don't know.
But if we split that, we're not moving to St. Louis. But
damn it.
We need to find a cool building like the cigar factory where we could have a studio.
Yeah.
But of course, a cigar factory is probably like
$1 bajillion a month.
A square foot.
It's like $30-something a square foot.
Probably. For like a windowless interior room.
Right. Which actually you kind of need for recording. So.
Oh, yeah.
So another interesting fact about the Lemps, they owned a refrigerated railroad.
Oh.
The Western Cable Railroad Company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And they were the first to establish coast-to-coast distribution of beer.
Get out.
Yeah.
So they went all the way. It wasn't just in the Midwest.
Right. So very, very cool.
And now for something not so scandalous.
Stay tuned for more scandal sheets after the break. And now, back to the show.
So up until 1892, they were still doing business under the Western Brewery moniker, which had been set up by original Adam.
They weren't Lemp yet.
Yeah, so in 1892, William Lemp founded the very creatively named William J. Lemp Brewery.
Yeah.
With himself as president, his son William Jr. as vice president, and his son Louis as the superintendent.
Wait, so he built all those buildings and they weren't Lemp until that late?
Correct.
Oh, so he finished. Oh, okay, sorry. Some of my information. Well, the description is accurate, but the name, I guess, is not.
There seemed to be a lot of mix-up about William Sr.'s name. He's commonly mixed up with Adam.
Adam.
Yeah. And it's actually William.
That's the son, because Adam is the father.
Right.
Okay.
William's favorite son was his fourth son, Frederick. He groomed Frederick from an early age to take over the business, which I kind of wonder how the older sons felt about that.
Right, because he's not the eldest.
Right.
Well, maybe they didn't care. I mean, did they necessarily want to become brewery owners?
Who knows?
But I guess it was such a successful company that why would you not?
Right. But given that William Jr. ended up becoming the successor and he was such a shit human, I can kind of understand why.
This is the one
to leapfrog over and go to his favorite son. Frederick, the chosen one, was plagued by a host of health problems, and in 1901, at the age of 28, he died of heart failure, leaving behind his wife Irene and a 1-year-old daughter named Marion.
Oh, that's really sad.
So following, William Sr. never recovered from losing his favorite son, and his depression worsened in 1904 when his best friend, Frederick Pabst, died. So on February 13th, 1904, he went to his bedroom in his palatial mansion and put a revolver to his right temple and pulled the trigger.
And when we say palatial mansion, we're talking about the mansion I just mentioned.
Correct, yes,
the
correct.
Lemp mansion.
Newspaper reports claim that he was suffering from insomnia and that he may have been,
depression.
quote, mentally unbalanced.
Sure.
No. He left behind his wife, 6 children, and a fortune estimated at $20 to $30 million. I think they may have been overshooting on that because I did not see much evidence of that much money in the future generations. But
I don't
you
know.
never know. Following his father's death, William Jr., known as Billy, assumed control of the brewery.
And this is the eldest son.
Yes, and the shit human.
Was he that bad?
Yes.
Okay.
He did not have a keen sense of business like his father, and instead he preferred to have a good time. He did study at St. Louis University and had trained up under his father and had married a local heiress named Lillian Hanlon, but he seemed to have difficulty settling down. Both he and his wife spent lavishly. I read one account that said he forced his wife to spend $1,000 a day or she wouldn't get a penny more from him.
Get out.
Because that is such a hard thing to do. She was known as the Lavender Lady because she bought all her clothes in the shade of lavender, and she loved it so much that she even had the leather bridles for her horses dyed lavender.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I would love to see her clothes, though. I bet they're beautiful.
Oh, yeah, but they probably were.
Not gonna lie.
Billy loved to party in the caves underneath the mansion and the brewery, which he had converted to a playground for his wealthy friends. Apparently, there was a theater, a heated swimming pool, and a bowling alley.
That's amazing.
And of course, he often hired prostitutes to add a bit of spice to these proceedings because they sound like they were so boring.
Yeah.
Some sources speculate that Billy fathered a son out of wedlock with either a prostitute or a maid within the household, and that the boy, who had Down syndrome, was kept in the attic quarters and raised by the servants.
No. Oh my God.
He apparently fell down the stairs at the age of 16 and died, and he now supposedly haunts the Lemp mansion along with several other members of the family.
Oh.
But there's no record of his birth or his death, so it sounds like this may be a completely made up story.
That's a pretty detailed thing to make up, though.
Anywho,
yeah.
Lillian got tired of Billy's shenanigans finally and filed for divorce at the end of 1908, citing physical cruelty and desertion, among other things. She asked for the custody of the couple's son, of course. And then Billy had to file his own cross petition for divorce, and he also asked for custody of the son.
I mean, was that just supposed to, like, save face? Because did he really want to take care of his son? Probably not. He just wanted to look like a better person.
Right.
He couldn't let her
He was a shit human.
Okay.
So, from the Great Falls Tribune...
You realize that nobody yet knows why that is the case. I mean, at the beginning, we sort of established a little... Okay.
Yes. So, from the Great Falls Tribune in Great Falls, Montana, the following article was published on February 9th, 1909.
Okay.
Both the Lemps want a divorce.
Wait, that's the title?
Yes. Wife of millionaire brewer's son takes stand in divorce proceedings. St. Louis, February 8th. The divorce suit, which Lillian Hanlon Lemp and her husband William J. Lemp Jr., son of the millionaire brewer, filed against each other, came to trial in the St. Louis court today before Judge Hitchcock. The case has attracted wide attention, and when the proceedings began, a large audience of fashionably attired men and women were present. The suit for divorce, for alimony, and the custody of J.G. Lemp.
I mean, there's nothing that could make me interested in
going to a divorce?
Famous right. But even, like, I mean, I get sad when people are like, famous people break up, but I don't, like, I'm not going to show up to proceedings.
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't have the entertainment we have today, so this was a big deal. I mean, they're like millionaires, and it's okay.
Yeah,
I guess I understand.
Yeah, people went to hangings back then. This is tame.
I know we can. Yeah.
So the suit for divorce, for alimony, and the custody of J.G. Lemp was filed by Mrs. Lemp, but immediately thereafter, Mr. Lemp filed a cross bill, also asking for divorce and custody of the child. Mrs. Lemp asked for no stipulated sum in alimony. She says her husband is worth $1.5 million and has an income of $50,000 a year, and she asked enough to support herself and her child comfortably. Mrs. Lemp was the first witness. She told how Lemp beat her in the bathroom of their home until she had to barricade herself in her bedroom. She declared he derided her when she told their son there was no God. Mrs. Lemp also told how her husband often threatened her with a revolver, how he had a detective trail her, how he locked her out of her own home, and how he once moved the furniture out while she was absent.
Okay, that's grounds for divorce.
Yeah.
Unlawful furniture moving.
Right. On cross-examination, Mrs. Lemp said that her husband had taught her to smoke cigarettes after their marriage. The religious education of the boy was one of the main causes of difference, according to Mrs. Lemp's testimony. She asserted that she had had the boy baptized in the Roman Catholic Church, despite his father's wishes to the contrary, but added she had told Mr. Lemp of her intention to have this ceremony performed. It was brought out that 2 antenuptial agreements had been entered into. One bound Mrs. Lemp not to interfere in the religious training of any child until he was 7 years old, and the other, signed in the presence of an archbishop, bound Mr. Lemp not to object to the Catholic baptism of a child. Both documents bear the same date, and it is the contention of Lemp's attorneys that Mrs. Lemp's agreement was subsequent to the other and superseded it. A letter was introduced in evidence which was found by Mr. Lemp among his wife's private papers. It was addressed to "My dear little